What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Tuesday, November 1st, 2016, getting into the very start of the month here. Last night was Halloween, we had a lot of kids show. We actually ran out of the veggie chips we had. And so a lot of kids, a lot of new kids coming to the neighborhood, a lot of new babies around. It's just a very exciting time here. So we had a really good time, handing out all the goodies and seeing all the little kids in their various costumes and whatnot. So obviously, the election is 1 week from today. This is the final round in this professional wrestling match that we call American politics, and it's getting very, very intense. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room as always, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments and questions. And we are seeing some very dramatic shifts in the American political landscape. The corporate media is still trying to pretend they're not seeing any of this. But apparently, with the announcement that the FBI is reopening their investigation into Hillary's emails, there has been a sudden surge of donations into Donald Trump's campaign. And we're talking big donations, millions of dollars from Republican donors. And they're basically thumbing their nose at the Republican Party, which, as you know, cut off all party funds for Donald Trump to express their ire that, golly, they didn't get a candidate of their own choosing. And Donald Trump is surging everywhere except the minds of the corporate media and the Hillary Clinton campaign. Now, as you know, this investigation is causing a great deal of ruckus. Everybody's out there saying, it's really a spin, it's really this, it's designed to help Hillary, and they're just trying to thrash around and make it look like it's not a big deal and that we shouldn't pay any attention to it. The Clinton campaign is saying the FBI has a double standard. That has double standards. Really, they weren't saying that last summer when FBI Director Comey was giving Hillary her get-out-of-jail-free card on all those felony violations of Title 18. And, of course, the problem we have now is apparently the Department of Justice has imposed on this new investigation Peter Kadzik, who has a long history with the Clinton family, and campaign manager John Podesta. The fix is already in, or they're trying to do that. And Peter Kadzik was also an attorney for Mark Rich when he was being pardoned by Bill Clinton. And to show you just how pervasive the corruption is, James Comey blocked the investigation into Pardongate, all these very questionable pardons that were going on back then. Now, Piers Morgan is out there with a very good observation. It's time for the Democrats to stop saying this is all James Comey's fault, it's all Vladimir Putin's fault, it's all Michael Rivero's fault, it's all Alex Jones' fault and everything. The only people to blame for this mess are Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Huma Abedin, and everybody else at the State Department who just felt that they didn't have to go along with the rules. Hillary's entire defense is to blame the messenger and try and cast doubt out there and try and keep you from looking at exactly what the allegations are and what they've actually done. And it doesn't matter who's leaking out this information, although right now Washington, D.C. is starting to resemble a colander from all the leaks that are coming on out right now. It doesn't matter where the leak's coming from. What matters is if the information being leaked is true and accurate and grounds for arrest and prosecution, and most of it certainly seems to be that way. Now, they're getting ready to try a last-minute desperate dodge on this whole email investigation. There was a YouTube video about how a New York Police Department insider leaked the email scandal about to take a sick and twisted turn. This is followed up by other articles. Will the FBI email investigation shed new light on the Lolita Express and other Clinton sex scandals? And what they're trying to do is a replay of the stained blue dress. Another story from Your News Wire. FBI insider Clinton emails linked to political pedophile sex ring. Ooh, we've got a sex scandal. Now, remember back during the Whitewater investigation, Ken Starr distracted all of America with Monica Lewinsky in the stained blue dress so that we didn't see the real scandal underlying all of Whitewater, which was government-sanctioned CIA drug smuggling and sales to our children to fund also illegal arms manufacturing and shipment to Nicaragua. That was the real scandal. But Ken Starr's job was, blue dress, look at Monica, look at the stain. That's what you want to look at. And that's what they're going to do. They're getting ready to basically put Jeff Epstein and his little island, Orgy Island, out there on the forefront and say, see, this is what they found on Anthony Weiner's laptop. It's called a limited hangout. In fact, in Anthony Weiner's case, that's more than a little true. But they're doing it so you don't look at the real scandal. Because apparently on that laptop are emails involving Huma Abedin that seem to suggest she was the pay-to-play conduit to Saudi Arabia and Israel. Huma was Hillary's go-to girl to communicate to these foreign leaders saying, if you want something from the State Department, you will make a donation to the Clinton Foundation. And they're desperate to keep you from looking at that, which is why they're going to throw Jeff Epstein's Orgy Island out there in the next few days to get you to look at that. And I'm not saying that that shouldn't be looked at, but it's a limited hangout. It's a distraction to get you to not look at the really bad, ugly crimes that have been going on. We're going to do a quick shout-out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network, and we are starting our show, as always, with the political dirt that's out there. More stuff coming out of WikiLeaks. The Clinton campaign apparently was mostly using personal email to evade public record searches. All of this is required. Now, Hillary Clinton's people are already out there saying that they have it, we shouldn't listen to WikiLeaks because they're tied in with the Russians. And, even though everything that's being leaked is confirmed independently by official records and everything, well, you shouldn't pay attention to that. But we have it on good authority from Donald Trump's lawyers, secretaries, hairdressers, attorneys, second cousin twice removed, that Donald Trump may have deleted emails as well. Well, see, there's a little difference. It's okay for Donald Trump to delete emails. He was not in a public office. He's not bound by public records laws. That's what's going on. And finally, remember back in 2012 when Michelle Bachmann was calling out Huma Abedin as a Muslim Brotherhood agent and potential Saudi spy? This is getting really, really ugly. All right, let's take a couple of phone calls real quick. Mike in Kentucky, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
A lot of the consternation over Comey on the left is kind of a bit ignorant, I think, because in effect he's locked all these emails up outside of public purview by making it an active investigation, and whatever's in there about Bill and Hillary and Epstein and Weiner all going to the party island is locked up now, right?
Well, see, the emails are already out because they're in the hands of New York State investigators who have their own ongoing case that takes precedent.
But it locks them up as an ongoing investigation. The public can't see them unless some hackers can get in and take them, right?
Well, see, politics is perception, and with a week to go until the election, it almost doesn't matter what's actually in those emails. The discovery of the additional 650,000 emails is only hammering home to the American people there's some kind of a monstrous cover-up involving Hillary Clinton, the State Department, the Clinton Foundation, and that private email server. I think I know what it was. I think Hillary Clinton was repeating the 1996 Chinagate scandal, selling U.S. secrets to foreign interests, and using her foundation to collect and launder the money. And in the absence of evidence to the contrary, we're free to assume the worst. So anybody who, Comey was forced to act because the New York authorities were going to go public, and maybe they're grabbing the records so they can't be examined by the general public. But the damage is already done. The damage is done here.
Well, they could attempt to throw Trump under the bus. I guess at some point Clinton could say, "Look, he was with me on a bunch of these trips."
At this point, who would believe anything Hillary Clinton has to say? I mean, she has created her credibility. Look at her untrustworthy ratings. They're sky high.
Bill try to drag down, or just like I'm wondering if Weiner's not trying to drag everybody he can down with him.
I think Weiner right now is cooperating with the investigation because he's seeing himself being set up and framed for the illegal possession of these documents. Huma Abedin is trying to claim that that was his personal laptop, but it's already been documented. They were sharing it prior to their estrangement. And so Weiner right now, he's looking at taking care of Anthony Weiner because he's realizing he's in a lot worse trouble than just coming out of online sex with an underage girl. He's looking at espionage.
I had read somewhere that he was saying, "Go ahead. You don't need a warrant. Here, look at this stuff." That's what I was like. He was trying to make a deal, and he was telling him to go ahead and look at all the email. Look, here's the laptop. You don't need a warrant, you know. But it involved so many other people that they had to get a warrant.
Well, I don't know why they had to get a warrant. The NSA looks at all of our computers without warrants all the time. I mean, it is hypocritical in the extreme to say, oh, because this is Huma Abedin and Anthony Weiner and Hillary Clinton, we must have a warrant, when we have been told repeatedly time and again, no warrant is required for the government to look into your personal computer. Okay, sauce for the goose and sauce for the gander.
William Benny has claimed that they've got everything on everybody. It's all filed and collated. And by my experience, even when you think devices are off, going back into the mid-1990s, they had the infrastructure in place to do this.
Yes.
And the software was being developed by AT&T way back then, called Hancock software.
Yes, no question about it. I mean, it all goes back to Project Echelon and governments that have become so afraid of their own population, they feel they have to spy on them.
Oh, man, and keep everything they can to profile. What about these testing? You know, these personality inventories that a lot of people have to take that go into the security services, like this, the guy that allegedly shot up the Pulse nightclub. He was in the security sector. Are those tests worthless, or did they profile him and set him up?
It could have been profile. I think he was definitely a patsy. But those personality assessments aren't very good. When I was in high school, I went through the battery of tests with everybody else, and I was told my best career path would be to be an architect, which didn't even occur to me to be interested in. So, no, it's just, you know, you get a bunch of psychiatrists who get together and they come up with this idea and they go on out and they sell it and they get pet politicians they've donated to say, this is the new mandated standard, and they start inflicting it on kids and causing all kinds of damage, making them all neurotic so that they have to take therapy sessions down the road and buy antidepressants.
So it's science fiction that they could use those tests as an instrument in the opposite direction to filter for people with a lack of empathy and set them up in situations where they could be made into a useful assassin or something. Well,
when you're talking about a lack of empathy, you're talking about a pathology that is so obvious you don't really need any kind of a sophisticated test to see it. You just look at their behavior. And recruiting is done from environments where such people tend to wind up, such as prison or sniper school in the military or any of that situation. But there is, to the best of my knowledge, no test that can predict ahead of time that a child will grow up to be a sociopath. But usually by the time they're coming out of college, their behavior has already revealed what their personality is going to be.
Yeah, there was a plot, I think it was a plot device in a recent, and it's one of the few TV shows I like to watch, is that, and most of them get canceled, the ones that I like to watch, but it's called Elementary. It's a modern.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like home.
Claire's a big fan of that show.
Right before this Pulse nightclub shooting, there was a plot in a program where they hijacked a test that was used to screen jurors and try to get more equitable sentencing guidelines. And they realized they could hijack it to find people that could be bought, personality profiles that could be bought and to assassinate people. And, you know, of course, Sherlock figured it out that was the only common thing if they'd taken this online test.
Yeah, I remember that episode as well. And there's some indications that they're onto something, but it's far from an absolute here. There was actually a movie about a runaway jury was the name of it. Gene Hackman and I forget the other stars who were in it. Same exact thing, where there was this law firm where all they ever did was get involved in big cases, helping them to screen out the jurors so that they were going to get the result that they wanted. And, of course, it is highly manipulative, and it sort of undermines that you're getting a jury of your peers, or when you realize the jury you got are the ones who made it all the way through the rat maze put up by the psychiatrists.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of thought it might be a mixed gift, though, on this email thing for him to try to lock down all this stuff on, so that people couldn't find out about.
Well, you remember the whole point of the book and movie Minority Report was these systems aren't reliable. There's no machine that you can hook somebody up to and the needle swings over and says sociopath. All psychiatry is subjective. It's the opinion of the practitioner who's usually thinking about how much kickback he's going to get from medications that he's selling. It simply doesn't work that way. And they do make horrible, horrible mistakes. I think we need to stop punishing possession of certain things or thinking certain things and holding certain views and go back to the good old-fashioned method that works, which is you punish bad behavior.
Yeah, the criminologists, I don't think, would agree with you in modern.
Well, at this stage in my life, I'm not afraid to annoy a few more professions out there that I don't see eye to eye with.
I've got to that point myself. Well, thanks for taking my call.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to switch over real quick to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. Hey, it's first time in a long time Hillary got stuck with a wiener, huh?
Yeah. Well, you know, it turned about as fair play. It took a vagina to bring down Bill Clinton. It's going to take a wiener to bring down Hillary Clinton. I think there's a certain balance to the universe at work here.
Hey, Mike, did you, I was flipping through the channels because, like you said, CNN, they're all like crap. They had James Carville. The KGB's linked in with Comey, the GOP, and Trump. It's a conspiracy. I never seen a meltdown. And then on Morning Joe, Harold Ford Jr., I think he's from Tennessee, toward the end of he got into like an argument with, Mika and Joe. You know, it's amazing though. And then CNN, they had this whole panel. Even a Republican woman was bringing up Trump and the Russians. You know, this is all they have to fall back on. Mike, this is basically a accelerated decline of the empire.
Yeah, it is.
What you're looking at is a crash and fracturing. This is scary stuff, Mike. I mean,
this is exactly what was happening.
It's not over yet.
This was exactly what was happening in the Soviet Union just months before it all fell apart over there.
And this is not over yet because who knows, maybe this SVU unit over in New York made a carbon copy of life insurance file. We don't know what they have. So if this gets covered up, that will leak out. So I don't think they can cover this up now. I think everybody's going to be jumping ship. Like the Democrats, some of them are jumping ship. And the Republicans, like you said, are sending money to Trump now. This is going to be a super decline for Hillary. And, you know, it's just sad how all the mimes are coming out and protecting her. And, I mean, come on.
They're not protecting her. They're protecting themselves. Remember that Clinton Foundation is the center of a vast economic enterprise that, according to this inside FBI source, it's a giant slush fund, it's a giant tax avoidance scheme. They don't need to go down in Panama for this stuff. They're using that Clinton Foundation. It's all illegal. They're not protecting Hillary. They're protecting themselves, because if Hillary does not win this election and she gets prosecuted, she's not going to go down all by herself. She'll take everybody down with her that she possibly can.
And just to let you know, Turkey is moving tanks to the border of Iraq, and Russian task force has entered the Med. So. Yeah,
well, there's a lot of stuff going on there right now. All right, Dustin, we're going to let you go here.
All right, thanks, Mike.
All right, we got callers waiting on the line, but we're coming up on a commercial break, so we're going to put the calls on hold here. There is a story that came out last summer from the Sean Hannity Show, and we reprised it today at WhatReallyHappened.com. Apparently, there is a witness who has come forward from the Clinton Foundation testifying about the pay-for-play. And investigators have identified several witnesses willing to testify who actually overheard Hillary on the phone setting up these pay-for-play arrangements. And obviously the political system is trying to protect itself, but they're losing. They're losing this one. And when it falls apart, it's going to happen with lightning speed, just like the former Soviet Union. We'll be right back after these commercials. Aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. Pardon me. We're going to go back to the phone lines. James in Tokyo. Ohio gozaimasu. What's on your mind today?
Ohio gozaimasu. I hope you are well, and that lovely harp-playing angel from heaven, the lovely Lady Claire, as well.
Yeah, she's actually over at her church playing music right now as we speak. She'll be back in about an hour.
That's great. Can't wait to hear her on Friday.
Okay.
Actually, talking about Danny, he actually did do a test on the dress, and it was proven that he's Al Gore's son, except when he realized it was the dress from a hotel maid, he sent it back. He finally got the blue dress, and it's been confirmed due to the saliva content that his name is Danny Lewinsky.
Well, I've been seeing that story about how Danny was going to get the stained blue dress, but I don't think DNA that is not being carefully preserved is going to last all that long. So, and there's something there's something you need to keep in mind right now. Right now, Hillary's people are trying to pour so much junk all over the net that nobody knows what's really going on. It's called jamming, and that's what they're doing. And they're putting all kinds of nonsense out there, and you're having to be really, really careful because they're basically pouring all this junk onto the internet so that CNN can say, "See, the internet is full of junk. You need to come back and let us tell you what you will think." Next week.
That's right. Only three medias, CBS, NBC, and ABC, like it used to be in the old days.
Well, I'm sure CNN and Fox might have some words about that last suggestion.
Absolutely. I wanted to just talk to you about, my opinion as a fan of yours.
Okay.
I've heard you on the Goddard Report. That was nice of you to put the link in, because a lot of times you get on your show and, I'm doing the Goddard Report, and you never put the link on or anything, and I try to look it up, and I can't even find how to get the show. But you put the link on, I heard, and it's great. I think I heard you twice on Richie Allen.
Yes.
That guy's pretty interesting, actually.
He is.
And
I generally try and post the links to my interviews on WhatReallyHappened.com, but given the sheer volume of news that's coming in, they can scroll off the bottom of the main page. And if I lengthen the page, then people on small machines get very unhappy. And if I shorten the page, then people say, we're not getting all the news. So, once this election is over, I'm starting to look at building a whole new website, up to date, latest security, latest systems, and just rebuild it from the ground up. So we'll be addressing all of these problems in the new site.
No, it's not that. I want to tell you what I don't like. Okay, I mean, I liked you on the Goddard, I liked you on Richie Allen, but what I don't like is these guys are very amicable towards you. I'd like to see you be like an Ann Coulter and get on different shows where you're actually debating people and expressing your opinions, because your opinions are very sound and logic, and these guys are kind of people that agree with you even before you get on the show.
Well, I'll share a little story with you. I actually did get interviewed by Alan Colmes some years ago, and I backed him into a corner of not really knowing what he was talking about. And I think for that reason, the corporate media doesn't want to have anybody interview with me, because they only want people they know that they can chew up and spit on out. And I'm not that kind of a person. They know where to find me, if they want to come on out and have a chit-chat. But the last time they did, it didn't go all that well, and I think they're avoiding me. They're trying to ignore me with as much dignity as they can muster these days.
Well, I think that's your calling, and that's just my opinion, and I hope, eventually that we can see you get on different types of media where you can debate people and express your opinions, because, I'm a big fan, and I really appreciate all the stuff you bring out. And that's all I have to say today, Michael. Nothing serious. I'm kind of tired of all this election stuff. I can't wait for it.
I'm hearing that from a lot of people. Regardless of how next week's election turns out, I think the American people have just become totally disgusted with our current system. And certainly if Trump is able to overcome the election fraud and get into the White House, I think there's going to be tremendous political support for a complete overhaul of our election system, to bring it up to international standards, to get rid of the means for fraud, to get rid of the illegal immigrants, to get rid of the dead voters, and get rid of those electronic machines. We don't need them, and we don't need tabulation centers. It's very easy to have an honest, fair election system, and I think that should be our next agenda after getting Trump into the White House. Thank you for the phone call, James. We're going to let you go. We've got to take another break for commercials. We're going to be back with a few more phone calls. Then we're going to close the lines and get back to some news. We'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're going to take a few more phone calls, and we're going to close the lines and get some news done here. Jerry in Chicago. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Aloha, Michael, and thank you very much for taking my call, and dittos to the caller that patted you on the back about some of your shows off the RBN network. And I agree with them wholeheartedly that, you know what, I hope that this gets over soon because I'm tired of the choice of no choice. But my question to you is, I am going to be casting a absentee ballot vote Thursday or Friday, whatever day I'm home, because I'm out of state right now, because I will not be around 7 days from now. And I was going to try to ask you, how can I guarantee that the vote that I submit goes through legally?
There is no mechanism. There is no mechanism to allow you to verify that that your vote is getting through the system anyway.
Okay, so I can't question them and say that, hey, look, and I'm not going to vote on the machine. I usually do the paper ballot. I have not done the machine probably for 8 years, but only because I never tried the machine and I thought it would be pretty cool to try it, and I did it, and there's still no guarantee back then, 8 years ago, of whoever I cast my vote for did it count.
Yeah, that's the problem. The way the system is set up, you can't actually verify your votes. It just doesn't happen. It's set up that way, and that's the thing that we need to fix. I mean,
if I go in there and I'm sorry, but if I go in there and I raise the question, hey, listen, how can I guarantee, what is my guarantee from you as recording this vote as the way I voted it versus a switch in the system to where I voted 12 or 15 times for
what you're going to get is the party line. Oh, our voting system is secure, it's trustworthy, it's honest, and but it's completely opaque to the voters. Now, the system that I suggested, and I'm not going to go into I might as well, yeah. Basically, we need to go to an election system where there are no electronic machines and there are no tabulation centers. And it's really very simple. You vote in your home precinct. You're not allowed to go anyplace else. You show ID, prove you're a legal citizen to vote, and vote only once. At the end of the day, all the paper ballots are counted in full view of everybody who's there. Representatives of the candidates, the parties, the issues, private voters. No counting in the back room at all. The totals are then posted in front of the precinct where everybody can copy them down. Then you have the city newspaper will have the totals from all the precincts published in the newspaper, and the little spreadsheet that adds them up to the city totals. Then the county-wide newspapers do exactly the same thing. Take it up one level, all the cities. Then the counties are all tabulated by the state newspapers, and then finally the national newspapers tabulate the results from those state totals. And that means that I, as a voter in my little town here in Hawaii, I can follow my precinct total all the way up the line and validate the mathematics for myself until it gets to the national totals. And this means you're going to have 200, 300 million accountants, if you will, guaranteeing that the election results are accurate. It's a very simple, effective system. And, of course, there are going to be people who are going to try and cheat it, but at least it's a system that's designed to resist cheating, not enable it, which is what we have now.
Okay, well, I thank you for that information, but just so you know, I drive around with a placarded van. On my back doors are placarded with a whole bunch of Liberty stickers, who is a sponsor for RBN, and one of them is, if voting really counted, they'd make it illegal. And I'll leave it with that. God bless you. Have a fantastic day.
All right, thank you very much. Here, we're going to switch over to Jeff in Idaho. Aloha, Jeff. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. The voter fraud in California with the state bill that was like 1410 or 1408 that you mentioned last week, about that illegals can vote in the election. what I want to do is propose the problem reaction solution. 2001. The Senate, the Supreme Court basically flips. Does whatever they do about the presidential election. Okay, the software that Bev Harris talked about in 2001 is found by Benny Smith to have the fix put in. Hillary puts in the 2006 Help America Vote Act, and now we have the vote fraud that's going through Kramer, going through Obama, going through all the things that we're talking about with the GEM software and the 4 states that she talked about yesterday. How can we get put all this together in some sort of RICO activity that is that involves injunctive relief, where all those images that are basically that Bev talked about can be basically captured.
Okay, hang on. Let me just cut you off right here and remind you of what that judge in San Diego said, where the judge admitted there had been misbehavior by the election officials, and then he said there is no legal remedy because the election has already been certified. Anybody who thinks that approaching the problem of election fraud through the court system is going to fundamentally transform the system is dreaming. Okay? We're going to have to rip the current system out by the roots, take sledgehammers to those electronic machines, and put in a whole new system. And if Trump is able to have a landslide and overcome the election fraud next week, that's got to be our highest priority. We have to have a new, trustworthy election system within 2 years.
Right, but you don't think that Bev's statement about getting the JPEGs before they're eliminated, would show that what's really going on with the election fraud? You don't think yesterday's comments about that she put on the internet about these activities would be any good?
Well, if you could get the JPEGs, but right. Bev is trying to work within a system that has already demonstrated to be basically in survival mode and protecting itself. And we have, it's like Lois Lerner's hard drive or all the rest of it. Anybody files a legal motion to get those JPEGs of the actual votes, and oh my goodness, the hard drive crashed. I mean, that's how.
I'm saying that I think that's the strategy. If the Trump campaign was listening, is try and put in place to basically show to bring the system down from the collapse after the election's over with the vote fraud counting. That's what I'm saying with the GEM software.
Well, I don't know how widely GEMS is still being used. Diebold sold off their voting machine to another company. But at this point, they're all fraudulent. We know that's what they're set up to do. And that's just the reality. But again, we need to remember, election fraud can shift a contest a few percentage points. It can't reverse a landslide. We saw that with the Brexit vote. And so what is really important a week from today is forget what the corporate media is telling you about who's ahead and who's behind. You get to that polling place and you vote for Donald Trump and you give him that landslide that will overwhelm the election riggers. Because if he does have a landslide victory and they try and reverse that, they could trigger an actual revolution in this country. I would hope that they don't want to do that. But again, we're dealing with people who are desperate to hang on to power. We're dealing with people who know they face prosecution and jail time if they're not able to hang on to power. They are very desperate. They're going to take desperate steps.
Yeah, okay, Mike. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to go to Kathleen in Paris. Bonjour, comment vas-tu? What's on your mind?
Bonsoir. For me, it's bonsoir because
bonsoir.
It's evening.
Ah, that's right. I wasn't looking at the... Bonsoir.
Yes, it's. I'm very happy right now. Just for a few days, I get to begin hearing you at 9 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock because when the time changes for you, it'll be back to coming on here at 10 because I think you start at 10.
Well, I get to sleep an hour later in the day because Hawaii doesn't go through all that time change nonsense. So after the mainland goes on back onto standard time, I get to actually sleep a little bit later every morning.
Good. A couple of things. YouTube I've confirmed that they have shadow banned me, and I don't know much what to do except commenting and re-uploading and things like that, and I can't do anything in YouTube now. Well, I can
you could create a new account. If you have a second email address, just create a new account.
And then they don't recognize me?
No, they don't recognize you. They'll have to shadow ban you all over again. But right now we're seeing we're seeing this trend on Twitter where people are deliberately misspelling the tags to get around Twitter's filters, like Hillary for Prison, and of course these are now soaring trending topics.
Uh-huh. So, but the real thing I was going to ask you about is, do you think that Hillary is thinking of making a run for it? Because she deposited $1.8 billion in a Qatar bank.
Well, I have not been able to find a confirmation on the story that Hillary moved $1.8 billion to a bank in Qatar. My first question would be, if the Clinton Foundation is really spending 95% of its money on charity, where she came up with $1.8 billion. But that issue aside, I have absolutely no doubt that the Clintons and Huma and all these people who've been involved in this drug money corruption, they all have emergency plans. We know the Bush family has bought a huge chunk of land in South America, almost big enough to be its own country. And if Trump wins next week, forget about Cher and Whoopi Goldberg and all these other people leaving the country. I think you're going to see some major political names getting across that border as fast as they can and skedaddling to someplace without extradition.
Yeah, this guy, the head of the Clinton Foundation, wanting asylum in Russia, kind of gives you,
Yes.
Some, yeah.
Well, a lot of wet work going on. A lot of people are very nervous. I certainly would hate to be Huma Abedin's life insurance underwriter at this point. Not to mention Brian Pagliano, which we haven't seen him in a while.
Right.
Okay.
Have we confirmed that Assange is alive?
Supposedly Assange is still alive, but he's been cut off from the world by the government of Ecuador, supposedly on the idea that telling the American people the truth about a candidate somehow represents interference in the elections. I have a different point of view. I think the American people have a right to know absolutely everything about every single candidate before they go to that polling place. But our elections are so fraudulent and our entire government so based on image and illusion that apparently reality is now considered a threat to the system.
I thought that the $1.8 billion to the Qatar bank was confirmed, but I'm sorry about that. I'll check on it.
Well, if you get a confirmation, I'd love to see it, because I did see it come in and go out, but I couldn't get a second source on that.
Okay, because that's why I was asking you, because it did sort of drop off the radar. And okay, thank you a lot.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to close the phone lines for a little while. We'll reopen them later in the show, but I do want to get into some more of the news and get this information out there. Story that came on out from Patriot Rising, Hillary's Watergate, and it's basically elucidating on something I said last week and even yesterday. If Hillary Clinton steals the election, it's going to be a repeat of Richard Nixon's second term in office, where he stole that election. We all know what happened. All the president's men, Watergate, all of that stuff, it was a stolen election. And Nixon went into office fending off investigators and ultimately had to resign from office. And before he resigned from office, all of his consciousness was on protecting himself legally, getting out of this mess he'd created for himself. We don't need to go through that again. If Hillary gets into that White House, half of her time is going to be spent trying to hold off all the investigations. The other half is going to be spent strip mining our nation to pay back all of her rich Wall Street donors and Israel. And she's going to have no time left over at all to be thinking about what's good for the American nation and the American people as a whole. That's why Donald Trump is so much better a choice. He's got his own money. He can't be bought. He can't be bribed. He's not under investigation. He doesn't owe a lot of people chunks of the country. He gets into that Oval Office, he's going to seriously have most of his time to think what's best for the nation what's best for the American people, how do we bring back manufacturing, how do we get rid of GMO, how do we guarantee future elections to be honest and accurate and fair so that our next generation of Americans don't have to go through all this crud that we're going through right now. I mean, to me, there is absolutely no question as to who we should be voting for. But the establishment is fighting for its survival. They're fighting to keep their hands in your wallets. They're fighting to stay out of jail in many cases. They're fighting to maintain their credibility and believability, but that's already gone. Latest poll are showing 45% of Americans are saying the Clinton email scandal is already worse than Watergate. Certainly, going into this election, more American people are aware of the email scandal than were aware of Watergate when Nixon won his re-election. Now then, Judicial Watch is stepping back out into the limelight with more Clinton-Abedin emails, confirming once again Huma Abedin and Hillary Clinton were exchanging classified information on an unsecure server. This is a Title 18 violation for both of them. I can understand why Huma Abedin might be seeking an immunity deal. She's looking at a perjury charge because she lied when she said she turned over every device on which the emails had been stored. Obviously, that shared laptop with her husband was not included. That's 5 years in jail for perjury. Hillary's looking at obstruction of justice. That's 20 years. There are now 5 FBI field offices probing the Clinton Foundation. And the word we are getting is that there is literally a rebellion in the ranks of the FBI. That they're very tired of having the FBI's image, not that it really had a good one coming out of COINTELPRO, but they're saying the FBI is being seen by the American people as a major problem, not as a benefit, because of what Comey did last summer. And meanwhile, Hillary's people are still out there saying, oh, it's all a Russian hack. Russia did it. The KGB is in cahoots with the GOP, and they're all aligned with Donald Trump against me. And she's playing the victim card all over again. It's good that she's into recycling, but we've already heard all this stuff before, and we know it's junk, absolute junk. Got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. Now, in California at Berkeley, there's a linguistics professor named Robin Lakoff who has come on out saying that all of this investigation into Hillary's email is only because she's a woman. This isn't a war on Hillary Clinton. This is a war on women, and we can't support this war on women. In other words, they're playing the vagina vote card again, and in the process, demonstrating that our once great university system has been eroded to total worthlessness by political correctness. But they still want your kids to attend university and run up $30,000, $40,000 in student loan debt to get them started on the right path through life of being a debt slave to the private central banks. Now, Hillary Clinton has not impressed too many people lately with her thought processes. And apparently, shortly after learning about the FBI reopening the investigation into the emails, Hillary Clinton, or whoever manages her Twitter account on her behalf, tweeted out an article from Slate magazine. Now, Slate is a liberal magazine, and normally they've been very, very positive about Hillary Clinton. But this story called Hillary one of the most corrupt, least popular candidates of all time, and it went out on Hillary's Twitter feed. It's amazing. Now then, the latest breaking news coming out of the latest WikiLeaks dump of Podesta's email has found the smoking gun that proves illegal intent in that after news of the private server went public and after the arrival of a subpoena from Congress, Hillary's people were talking about needing to delete the emails on the private server. That's intent to destroy evidence. That's intent to commit obstruction of justice. There's your intent, Director Comey. What are you going to do now? So, another indication that we're seeing a breaking of ranks within the FBI was a document dump regarding earlier Clinton Foundation files, and in there a bunch of stuff about the pardon of Mark Rich. And as I mentioned earlier, the Assistant Attorney General, who's now in charge of the new Emailgate investigation, was the lawyer for Mark Rich when he got his pardon. And James Comey was the official who decided not to pursue Bill Clinton in Pardongate. And I have a feeling right now that we may be seeing James Comey resign his position very, very soon. Either that or he's going to get really, really depressed and commit suicide by shooting himself in the back 12 times. Another Podesta email in the latest dump is that Podesta's out there saying, when you know your opponent is completely right and you are completely wrong, you compare your opponent to Hitler. That's how you turn it around. And we have seen Hillary do that time and time and time again. And what this email is telling us is every time Hillary pulls this, it's because she knows she can't win the debate on the facts, logic, and law. Got to take a break for station identification. We'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show, hour number 2. And we're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines now, 800-313-9443. So what's going on in the world of the election polls? Now, obviously, in the polls all being run by organizations and entities not connected with the corporate media, Donald Trump is ahead by a landslide. But even the corporate media, with all the skewing and the oversampling of Democrats and the oversampling of women and the oversampling of minorities and the oversampling of illegal immigrants who aren't supposed to be voting anyway, are having to concede that Donald Trump's numbers are rising and Hillary Clinton's numbers are going down. Over at the LA Times, they have their constant, ongoing, updated where the presidential race stands today. And looking through the numbers, first of all, it's great. Trump is heading up. Clinton's heading down. But looking at the demographics tells us a great deal about how Hillary is shaping her campaign. Because Hillary's strongest support is among young people who see themselves as intellectual elites, but are too young to recall the scandal-plagued Bill Clinton presidency, and the poor, who are all hoping Hillary's going to take money away from the middle class and give it to them, and of course all the illegal immigrants who have been promised amnesty if they vote for Hillary Clinton, which they're not legally supposed to do until they're legal citizens. But what can I tell you here? Now, the early voting changes are starting to come on in. In those states allowing people to revise their early votes, there is a flood of people going and saying, I want to change my vote from Hillary to Donald Trump. And it's a major surge. People are having second thoughts. Even the New York Times and Washington Post are saying Donald Trump is ahead by 1 point. Now, 1 point is no big deal. It's within the margin of error. It's close enough where they can vote rig one way or the other. But if ABC and Washington Post are saying Donald Trump is ahead by 1 point, in actuality, it's more like 16, 17, 18 points, because of their skewing. And this is a shocking reversal from only 9 days ago, where they were proclaiming that Hillary Clinton was 12 points ahead of Donald Trump. Meanwhile, they're out there admitting Hillary Clinton's unpopularity has reached a new high. The corporate media are out there trying to sell you this idea that even though everybody hates Hillary Clinton and they don't think she can be trusted, that by golly, they're still going to vote her into that Oval Office. And if you believe that one, I have some of Saddam's nuclear weapons to sell you. Now, they had a little bit of an embarrassment over at the New York Times because they sent a photographer down to Florida where she was visiting an early voting site in Pompano Beach, and there were so many Donald Trump supporters out there, the New York Times photographer could not actually get a photo of Hillary Clinton that didn't include all of these Trump placards in there, and they had to go to press with that. It's a huge embarrassment. Clint Eastwood has come out with a statement. I love this one. The only blue you're going to be seeing this election is the cops taking Hillary down for her corruption. From your lips to the universe's ears, Clint, we would all like to see that. All right, we're going to take a phone call. Alex in Florida, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Not much, Michael. Thank you for
All right, well,
my
thank
call.
you for calling.
Hello. Hello.
Go ahead.
Hello. Yes, I have a question. So you heard there is an email that they're talking about deleting emails from the private server?
Yes. That was
There's already been plenty of emails that prove that they're criminals. That's why I question the whole Comey thing. Like there wasn't enough evidence already.
Alex, every time you come on in, you try and cast doubt on what's going on here. And, I'm sorry. We know that Comey's hand was forced by the law enforcement up in New York. And we know that Lynch was trying to get Comey not to go public on this. Comey is now looking at him being set up to be thrown under the bus by Loretta Lynch and Barack Obama. And we're actually at a very exciting stage in this political theater because they're not operating as a unified unit anymore. Each one of them is in a panic, looking out for their own best interest. And at this point, we can expect to see them turn on each other with virtually no notice. Okay? Now, the fact is the email that came out today was confirmation that they were talking about the decision to delete the emails off the private server after they received the subpoena. That is intention to obstruct justice. And remember, when last summer, when James Comey came on out and he listed Hillary Clinton's Title 18 violations, he justified not recommending charges by saying they found no evidence of intent to do wrong, even though intent to do wrong is not required under Title 18, Section 793. Here we have the evidence of intent to do wrong. And Comey's got to do something about it or stand exposed as part of this corrupt Clinton political machine. We're going to take a second here.
Michael.
Hang on, Alex. We're going to take a second to do a shout-out to our on-air affiliates who are rejoining our network now. Okay, Alex, go ahead and complete what you wanted to say.
If Hillary Clinton, if the FBI recommends indictment before the election, will that automatically disqualify her?
No, under Title 18, she has to be convicted. But in the court of public opinion, that would be the death blow.
I know, but unless they rig the election or some crap, and then it's like a death blow for us.
Well, that's what we're facing here. I mean, if Hillary Clinton steals this election, as hard as they've had to work to pull this over on us, this will be the last election. They won't risk another one where the American people are aware that our elections are completely fraudulent. They'll find some way to say, okay, we need to change this, we need to shut down the independent media, we need to turn all of the American people back into obedient little mushrooms who will believe what they're being fed, because it's just too much work for us to swindle the country when too many people know what we're doing.
That's right. And I still think even before the FBI reopened the case, I think Trump's ahead by 20 points.
I agree.
I do. I just don't know how he couldn't be. How can everyone say they're for a criminal and for the status quo? The status quo sucks.
Well, let me share something that happened last night that I think is really funny. One of our local Democratic candidates was out trick-or-treating with their kids, and I was wearing the Hillary for Prison T-shirt and one of the buttons, and from a distance, all he saw was the word Hillary, and his face lit up, like, wow, I saw your shirt, and I wanted to come on over and shake your hand. That's when he saw the word prison, and it was like I had leprosy. He just took his kids and ran. And what that tells me is he's not seeing a lot of Hillary shirts around Hawaii, and this is a Democratic state. This is a blue state. And again, there was a huge Trump placard waving over in front of Iolani Palace the other week. So far, I've seen only one lady with a Hillary Clinton sign, and she's trying really hard to wag it at people and everything, and she's probably going to get run over if she's not careful, but I'm sure she will still be voting for Hillary Clinton next week.
Yeah, there's a lot of Trump little signs on the road that people are running over and stuff. And I know it's only one or two people running them over because there's loads of signs everywhere where I live for Trump.
I love that. I love that group, that Black Women for Trump group who booby-trapped their signs with nail boards and ripped up the tires of the cars of Hillary's people. And they got pictures of them because they couldn't drive with all four of their tires burst. They had to pull on over, and they got their pictures taken. I love it.
Yeah. Hey, I think my Hillary for prison sign that I have in my front yard is going to be a collector's item. My neighbor said if you can get Trump to sign that, it would be worth a lot of money.
Yes, it would be worth a lot of money here, and I think all of this stuff, the Hillary for Prison buttons, the inflatable love doll and stuff, this will all be collectible somewhere down the road, I'm sure.
That's right, and I want you to know, Michael, I'm with you, and sometimes I call and you may think that I'm being negative. I'm not. I'm so pro-Trump, and I'm with you big time. And we appreciate what you're doing very much. So, and get ready because you're the new guy. You're going to be the new guy once Trump comes along. And I also wanted to tell you, if Trump doesn't win, I want to leave this country.
Well, I think we should all work together to make the corrupt establishment leave this country. It's our country. Why should we leave and let them have it? It's our country. And there's no way Hillary can claim victory in the White House that anybody's going to believe. It's just impossible. And again, wear your red shirts on Election Day if you are supporting Trump. If everybody supporting Trump wears red and there's that sea of red out there, it's going to make it impossible for them to steal the election and get away with it. Because everyone's going to say, how can you tell us Hillary won? Everybody was in a red shirt down where I was voting.
Yeah, her warmonger stuff scares me. She's a warmonger.
It does me, too. We got a first-strike nuclear target right out this window here. Bright flash, 12 seconds later, we don't have to worry about retirement, for which we are not prepared, I might add.
Right.
All righty, well, listen.
That's right. I want a sign that says Trump. I want a sign that says no war, vote Trump in my front yard.
Well, we've got a graphic here that's Hillary, Trump, war, peace. It's that simple. Alex, we're going to let you go. We gave you enough time. Got to share some with Chris in Las Vegas. Chris, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, thank you so much, Michael. Aloha.
Aloha, Nuni.
It seems to me with the Tommy fuming going on and dissatisfaction amongst the ranks there, that we should have a similar opposition to the abject, corrupt, so-called Justice Department Loretta Lynch mob and several of the underlings that rest right below their positions that seem to be absolutely obstructing justice, denying due process, taking the Fifth Amendment, refusing to testify, and be open and transparent as the so-called Obama administration professed to be the most transparent administration in history when they've been the most opaque.
Absolutely no question about that. But like I said, the indications are now that that core of the corrupt system is fragmenting, and everybody is now seeing everybody else as a threat. Huma Abedin has gone from Hillary Clinton's longtime confidant and, according to some sources, squeeze, to being the biggest single threat against Hillary Clinton that's out there. And she had good reason to have this life insurance folder on her computer. Vince Foster's mistake was that his dead man switch was in his White House office safe, where they could get to it before the police could show up. So that's how these things get played. And right now, everybody is worried about going to jail. Everybody is worried about having their reputations destroyed. They're thinking in terms of their own self-interest, and the unity of the whole structure has broken apart. When you add to that all these leaks coming on out from people who want the axe to fall on somebody else's head, it's going to be a real circus before this is over.
Well, it's already a circus. In fact, many of the stage performers on the circus stage seem to be just clearly and blatantly so criminal, so obstructive of justice. The meeting of Loretta Lynch with Bill Clinton, the indicted co-conspirator's husband, on the tarmac in Texas, it calls into question the abject corruption in our associations with not only Tommy and Tommy's brother that works for the Clinton Foundation, and they being involved in the HSBC bank scandal beforehand. The whole thing just stinks to high heaven, and they're supposed to avoid the appearance of conflict, and these people are obviously conflicted up to their eyeballs.
They really are, and that's one of the things that makes it so complicated. We're not dealing with one or two conflicts of interest or one or two examples of corruption. The corruption is omnipresent. It's everywhere. And it's spread its tentacles throughout our entire government, and nobody is beyond its reach, with rare exceptions like Ron Paul and Cynthia McKinney, who have been shown the door, because the corrupt system does not want anybody in there who's going to spoil the party, which is why they are united against Donald Trump.
My last closing comment, if you will, the unfortunate conundrum is that the IG office, the special prosecutor, the special counsel, and the FBI and the Justice Department all fall under the scope and subject to the IG. And the same thing with the CFPB, they chided them for no oversight, and they claim that now the director of the CFPB, Richard Cordray, is subject to the POTUS, and the POTUS is the one that appointed him to the office in the first place. It's effectually no oversight whatsoever. It's just a pretense. Thank you very, very much, Michael.
Well, you're absolutely right. It is a pretense. But going on back to the similar situation with Richard Nixon, everybody who's supporting Hillary Clinton needs to understand something. Hillary stealing the White House will not be the end of it. If anything, it will enrage people even further to continue leaking, to continue investigating, to continue to demand something be done. And as Nixon headed closer to his resignation, his attorney general had to step down, or actually, I think Nixon fired the special prosecutor. Eventually, the attorney general was brought down and had his own legal problems. Bit by bit, it will be ripped apart. And anybody who's working for Hillary right now who thinks that this is all going to stop a week from today, you are dreaming. You are in la-la land. You are indulging in way too much of the CIA's imported product, or you're taking way too many prescription antidepressants. All right, we're going to switch over to Mike in Tennessee. Aloha, Mike. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Greetings, Mike. Write this down and do us a service, if you would, after I get off or sometime when you can. Explain what a dead man switch is and how you can easily do one, because the average person probably isn't up to speed on that, and they need to be, because everybody that's an Intel sharer needs to have something of this. And that being said, I have to disagree with you. They can flip a landslide. Have you been to my website?
They can flip it, but they can't flip it and make it invisible that that's what they've done. Yeah, they can flip the landslide. That, you know, I've seen all these studies about how they can completely reverse the election. The question is, will the public fall for it? And the answer is overwhelmingly no. Too many people know that election fraud is a reality in this country. They could trigger a revolution by trying.
But the only people that have standing are the candidates, and only the candidates can sue to challenge the election.
You're still trapped in this idea of working within the system and the courts, and that judge in San Diego already made it clear. There are no legal remedies, and that leaves, unfortunately, only one option, the one that John F. Kennedy warned us about. Okay? Hang on. Okay, forget about going to the courts, forget about standing. Here's going to be the problem. If Hillary Clinton and her people reverse a Trump landslide and claim authority, nobody's going to listen to them. She's going to go into the White House with everybody in the United States of America knowing she shouldn't be there. They're not going to listen to her. They're not going to obey the laws. They're not going to fill out the paperwork. They're not going to put the little stickers all over their cars and stuff. They're not going to pay the government's bills for all the out-of-control spending, and they are certainly not going to allow their children to be killed and crippled in any more wars of conquest. Hillary stealing the government would result in an absolutely paralyzed nation.
The county I live in is a test case where they did absolutely exactly what you're talking about. The government flipped the vote, and the people just remained silent because they said, what are we going to do? And they, so far, have done nothing. And, of course, I was sent to prison for exposing the rigged election. So, you know, if you believe that the rank-and-file Americans are going to stand up and stop paying taxes, you know, I'm still looking for it, but I've been beating this drum for a long, long time, and I don't see it. Yes, I think that the time has come for those judges to be ripped up out of their seats, off the bench, and disbarred, disrobed, and put on a rail and run out of town because they're nothing but Luciferian priests. You know.
Okay, Mike, I need to cut you off. Mike, I need to cut you off because we're coming up on a commercial break here, but I need to make a point. I work in a different circle of friends. I get emails all the time. I get phone calls all the time. There are so many angry Americans out there that are at the breaking point. And I think anybody who's going to go ahead and try and flip this election and just bet the farm that the American people will go along with it, they are being very, very, very foolish and reckless indeed. And again, rulers make these kind of mistakes. Mussolini did, Charles I did, Louis XVI did, Ceausescu did. All those Celtic kings bobbing up in the peat bogs in Britain all made that same mistake of going one step too far. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go back to the phones here to Kevin in Ontario. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. How are you, sir?
Doing all right.
Good, good. The question I have is kind of like a two-pronged approach. I'm up here in Ontario, Canada. We get filtered information from the media and all that, what Trump is campaigning for and all the great things that he's trying to stop, etc. So my question is how long do you think it will take to clear up the corruption in the United States? And then the ripple effect on how, obviously, it's going to expose a lot of the corruption in the world. So then the ripple effect on if Donald Trump does get elected and he starts clearing out all this corruption, how long is it going to take in the U.S.? And then the ripple effect on what you think it will happen in the world and how that's going to clear it up.
Well, if you look throughout history, you will see that every time one nation makes a major step forward, it triggers similar events in other countries. The French Revolution was inspired by the American Revolution, for example. How long it will take, we don't know. Will it ever be over? No, because like the battle between good and evil, it's always going to be ongoing. But it shifts back and forth in terms of who's got the advantage, whether the corrupt are in complete control or whether the moral are in complete control. It's always going to be going back and forth. And I'd love to be able to say that we're going to just, take all the money junkies and throw them into Guantanamo and that will be the end of it. But there's always going to be more money junkies being born. It's just the curse of human nature. Our primal instincts surfacing and conflicting with our civilizing influences, and that's always an ongoing battle. But I think what we've seen here in the United States is the corruption has gotten so bad that there is this pushback by the American people to say there's an acceptable level of corruption we're willing to put up with. But this is unacceptable. It's like going back to that Declaration of Independence where it says evils are sufferable, people are disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable. And that means there's a certain amount of bovine excrement we're willing to put up with from our government as long as they're still taking care of our country. But when we get to a situation where the corrupt are just plundering the place and they're not taking care of the country, and we and our children are suffering for it, that's when the pushback is going to happen. And I think because of this push for globalism, I think it's created a global climate that could literally lead to a global revolution. And whether it'll be sparked here in the United States or in Europe remains to be seen. But once it explodes into view, I think it will go global almost instantaneously.
Yeah, I agree fully, and I can't wait for that. Did Donald Trump not only say, though, that he wanted to get rid of all the Congress and then put terms on how long they can last in power? And if so, wouldn't that kind of cut down on that corruption?
Yes, it would. I agree. And I absolutely agree. There should be term limits on members of Congress. Members of Congress should put their wealth into a blind trust the way the president does. There should be a law that says Congress cannot engage in insider trading. Somebody actually tried to get one introduced and was immediately voted down. But we need safeguards. We've handed Congress and Washington, D.C. way too much power and influence, and inevitably they're using it for their own gain. The curse of all political power is that it attracts the very kind of people who should never be allowed to have it. And that's why the Founding Fathers designed this nation where power and authority was diffused across the land at all levels, and the central government was intentionally kept weak and its role limited to acting as an umpire between the states and the national defense when necessary. What we have today is so far removed from what was designed by Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and Ben Franklin and the rest of the delegates. They would be very, very surprised and possibly ashamed at how badly we, the American people, have betrayed their legacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, totally. The next question that I have is...
Well, I'm going to have to hold. I'm going to have to hold you over the commercial break. Okay? So stay on the phone, and we will come right back to you. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. We're going to go back to Kevin in Ontario. You had one more question.
Yeah, basically, my friends and myself were having a debate a couple of days ago, basically, you know, talking back and forth about Clinton and Trump. I see Trump more as a businessman than a politician, and I'm pretty sure that's 100% accurate. So,
it is, and that's why he's so popular. We're sick and tired of professional politicians wrecking our life. Let's get somebody to run the country who knows how to actually run a business.
That's absolutely correct, and that was my point. And so that was my next question: is obviously the benefits of being a businessman over a politician will definitely help him propel all the positive change that he wants to do in the country.
Very much so. I mean, Hillary's people like to try and dismiss Donald Trump as a successful businessman who decided to dabble in politics late in life. But that same description fits George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Paul Revere, Ben Franklin, John Adams, all of the Founding Fathers. They didn't start out being career politicians. They were people who had businesses. They made things. They knew how to make businesses work. And even after the creation of the United States, being in the government was a part-time honorary position. They didn't give up being lawyers, silversmiths, publishers, and so forth.
Gotcha, yeah. So the last thing I just want to say, I mean, I've been listening to your show. I've been part of your network for quite a bit. You look great, by the way. Just watching you on the screen, you're doing very well, and Claire is probably a very happy woman right now.
Well, you know, we're all very stressed out about the upcoming election, and, you know, Claire's obviously concerned for our physical safety, and that's an issue that we have to constantly be aware of. Anyway, listen, Kevin, we're going to let you go here and switch over to Donna in New Mexico. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
I wanted to speak. I have an observation about what's happening here in New Mexico with regard to the election, but I also have a question about electoral votes because I just, it blows my mind. So I know I can rely on your expertise to try to square that away for me. Our state is considered a blue state, which I've been here for 20 years, and we always have a historical divide. The South is typically Republican, and the North is Democrat. That all that has changed because we've had an influx of illegal immigrants. We have indigenous Hispanic people that are descendants from the Spanish Empire who are competing with illegal migrants that are coming through and losing their jobs to those people. As hardworking as they may be, in addition to that, we're getting gangs and all kinds of stuff that come through. So we have major concerns about this election. But what's really interesting to me is that no matter how far I drive, I don't see a single sign for anybody, not Hillary Clinton and not for Donald Trump. And I'm going to tell you what I think about that. This is my observation. I believe that the historically Democratic North is so upset with the Democratic Party. They're not putting out signs for her, but they're afraid to put out signs for Trump. And I think, you know, once again, like we're seeing in so many states, these are people who are going to privately support Donald Trump. And there's another reason for this. A few years ago when Susana Martinez was elected governor, and she's a Republican, almost every Democrat that I knew, especially Hispanic ones, they supported her because they were sick of the corruption from the Democratic leadership, and the candidate that was running against her had many scandals. So they actually went out and they brought in a Republican governor, and I don't like her, okay? And she's not my favorite person. But there was a backlash, and I think that backlash, because we have extreme wealth in many ways in our state, and we have extreme poverty Okay? So I think that it's the first time I've never seen signs. Never. It's amazing to me. So I think that's what's going on. I may be wrong. But could you please, in a concise way, I'm a knowledgeable person, and I've looked this up, and I can't figure it out. If Hillary's got the electoral vote, and say that Donald gets the popular vote, where are we at with that?
Well, let me back up, first of all, and address the issue you raised. First of all, we know all across the United States, Donald Trump signs are being put up, but they're being torn down by Hillary supporters, some of whom have been caught doing it, some of whom have been injured in booby traps or had their tires destroyed. So that may be why you're not seeing the Trump signs. We know that despite Hillary's fear-mongering, the legal Hispanics in this country are supporting Donald Trump for precisely the reason that you say. All these illegals coming in are competition for the available jobs and resources. And the legal Hispanics are sick and tired of being lumped in and confused with the illegal immigrants. And so there's a schism opening up there as well. I think you're right. There's a lot of people who aren't wearing their choice for president on their sleeve. But I think right now we're seeing the undecideds definitely are joining the shift toward Donald Trump. I think in an honest election it would be Trump by a landslide at this point. But we do have this corrupted Democratic Party leadership that is openly admitting they rigged the primaries to give it to Hillary. And they know that if they fail to put Hillary into the White House, some of them are looking at jail sentences. So at this point, all's fair in love and war, which is a contemptible lie, and that's where we are right now. And it's going to be a street brawl until after the election is over, and it may even be a street brawl after the election is over. Now, with regard to the electoral votes, the electoral votes are supposed to represent the popular vote. Because of the way populations are aligned and assigned to electors, it is possible for states to have more electoral votes than their population justifies. It's been a problem in years past. And so candidates tend to focus on the states where they're going to get the electoral votes. And Hillary's people are definitely focusing on 5 states that they need to basically steal in order to prevent Donald Trump from getting the necessary number of electoral votes. It's a messed up system. And again, if Donald Trump succeeds in overcoming the election fraud next week, I think, certainly from my perspective, our top priority is going to be a complete overhaul of the election system, top to bottom. No more tabulation centers, no more electronic machines, no more counting of ballots out of sight of the public. Just open, honest, out there where everybody can see it. Illegals not allowed to vote, the dead not allowed to vote, legal citizens allowed to vote only once, because our current system is a joke. It's a disgrace. The only nation with a more crooked voting system than the United States is Panama. And I don't know, as an American, I don't like even being equated with Panama in terms of corruption.
Well, I don't either. Okay, that's all I had. And you've addressed it adequately, and thank you.
All right, thanks an awful lot. Now, before we go back to the phones here, I did have a caller a little while ago, wanted me to elucidate on the idea of a dead man switch. And a dead man switch very simply is that if you are involved with people who are engaged in criminality, whether it's in politics or corporate behavior or whatever, a dead man switch is where you take all of the evidence that would get your other officials thrown in jail, and you have them placed someplace secret where they're automatically going to be released to the public or to prosecutors should anything untoward happen to you. And it's a very, very good thing to have. Julian Assange has several. People who are in the truth business tend to have these things as well. Vince Foster's mistake was his dead man switch was in his White House office safe where they could get at it before the park police could show up and investigate. And we know the safe had been broken into before the park police showed up. So that's what a dead man switch is. You're involved with somebody who's doing something illegal. You don't want to be the scapegoat. You don't want to be the convenient dead body on which they blame everything. So you have this dead man switch, which is copies of incriminating documents, videos, files, whatever, placed with 5 or 6, widely distributed assets who can be trusted to dump it into the public if something happens to you. That's a dead man switch. Obviously, the directory life insurance on the Huma Abedin laptop was at least one of her dead man switches. And I hope she's got some others out there, because if she doesn't, if that was the only one, then we're going to find her in Fort Marcy Park anytime now. All right, back to the phones here. Ty in Wisconsin, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Thank you, Mike. I just wanted to say you're definitely in the top tier of independent media. I've only been listening to you for a couple of months. I can't believe I haven't heard about you before.
Oh, well, I'm a very well-kept secret.
I've been listening to Stu Webb most of the time before. He used to be my favorite, and he pointed out that Donald Trump's bankruptcies were instigated by Larry Meisel, the Jewish mob don in Denver, and HSBC Bank, pulling his notes on the casinos because his casino was doing better than theirs. Do you know if there's any truth to that?
Yeah, that is what happened, and that's actually a very common thing. When you're dealing with casinos, you are dealing with organized crime, and if you are out pulling them, they will do whatever they can to basically shut you down so that people have no choice but to go back to the casinos being run by the gangsters. It's a very common story. If they can't do it legally, then there'll be suspicious fires or something else will happen that will lead to that same end result. But again, the bankruptcies were all legal. He took the tax losses legally. Hillary's out there screaming, what kind of a smart man loses $1 billion? But she misplaced $6 billion as Secretary of State. That is still without any explanation whatsoever.
There's not too many talk shows where I call in where I think that the host is the guest also. Usually I'm elaborating on what I know, but I sincerely want to know what your thoughts were on that. I have one thing I want to point out for all the Christianeers out there. I run the Donald Trump Prayer Force on Facebook, and one scripture I'm putting out there for everyone is Psalm 33:10. It says that the Lord shall frustrate the plans of the wicked, and we're seeing that big time this last week.
Well, I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Frank.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can I share one more thing?
Yeah, one more thing real quick.
Okay, also, just to bring everything into a very philosophical context, I like to say everything's happening for a reason. There's only 2 other options, some things or nothing. Okay, nothing is eliminated by gravity. Some things is unscientific. But it's all cause and effect. So Obama and Hillary and all this evil that's being created by the creator of the universe is only to make Trump look good and to wake America up. So we've got to appreciate what's going on here. There's nothing that's out of order. It's all happening systematically.
Well, I have a somewhat different perspective on that than you do, but I appreciate your opinion. We're going to let you go and switch over to Fran in Washington State.
Mike.
Aloha, Fran. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Are you there, Mike?
Yes, I am. You're on the air. What's going on?
All right. Aloha nui nui.
Aloha nui nui.
Sometimes I think I'm a slow learner, but you've got about 10 years more research and better history than I do. So I've been doing this for 15 years, and there were times when I had to stand up from the computer and walk away because the truth was hitting me so hard.
Yeah.
There's another one, and like I said, sometimes I think I'm a slow learner, and it was very interesting hearing that man from Ontario talking to you, because I'm a slow learner, what can I say? I've recently become bare naked aware that this corruption is global. We're just the tip of the iceberg, or maybe we're just the ones talking a lot about it. But I keep track of Benjamin Fulford, too, in Tokyo, and other places, and it seems like there's a global raising of consciousness, if you will.
Yes.
And everybody is starting to take action.
Yes.
Whether they look upon it as an awakening, but it has to be. It can't be anything else that's happening, thank God. finally.
Well, Zbigniew Brzezinski,
and it has to happen.
It does have to happen, and it is happening. Now, there isn't really a global conspiracy of corruption. It is simply human nature that some people are born corruptible, and if their society and social structure allows it, they will become corrupt and corrupt everything around them. It's part of the human condition. The only global organization of the corrupt are the people pushing for the New World Order and a single global government. Now, as far as people waking up, that is very clearly happening. Zbigniew Brzezinski called it the global political awakening. From his point of view, it's a bad thing. They want us all to go back to sleep, to believe in human-caused global warming, to believe that we are good and the Russians are bad, and that our children deserve no greater fate than to be blown to bloody bits on some foreign battlefield.
Well, you know, it's even bigger than that, because anytime you look at foreign countries being used for their resources, you'll find deep corruption going after that, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's global, too. You know, Africa's resources, you know, Middle East, pick a
well,
name.
I mean, look at the result here.
Money...
Hang on. I need to make a point here. Yeah. Those world leaders who refuse to be corrupted get killed. That's what all these regime changes are about. If the U.S. is able to go into a country and make a deal with the leadership to get favorable treatment, access to resources and everything, that's it. The deal is done. They go into a country like Libya where they get rid of private central banking. They have a new currency, the gold dinar, and they want to trade in the gold dinar, and they refuse to use the dollar. That's when the interventions and the wars start. And
yeah,
you know, that's...
And probably all the corruption that's global and have to do with raping of a nation's resources all kind of drift back to the banksters.
Of course it does. Of course it does. The people behind the private central banks have created a system of dictatorship, of debt slavery, of rule by banker debt, and they rule the world with it, and they've ruled the world with it for 300 years. And it's no more legitimate a form of governance than rule by divine right or rule by slavery. And like those former failed systems, it only works as long as you allow yourself to be brainwashed into thinking this is the way the world is supposed to be. And we know from the early years of the United States there is a better way. But everybody who's tried that better way is made war on by those nations still enslaved to the private central banks. And I wonder what the soldiers in all of these nations think about the fact that they're just being used as mercenaries to go on out and kill the competition to the private central bankers.
Well, that's all I got for today. Thanks for the great job, Michael.
All right, well, thank you very much. We're going to take a break for some commercials. When we come on back, we've got a little bit of audio for you and more news. We'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And before we get back to phone calls and news here, there was a movie a while back called Good Will Hunting that really cuts to the heart about the difference between what ordinary Americans think their nation is and what it really is. And we're going to play you that monologue right now.
So why do you think I should work for the National Security Agency?
Well, you'd be working on the cutting edge. You'd be exposed to the kind of technology that you wouldn't see anywhere else because we've classified it. Superstring theory, chaos math, advanced algorithms.
Code breaking.
Well, that's one aspect of what we do.
Oh, come on. I mean, that is what you do. You guys handle 80% of the intelligence workload. You're 7 times the size of the CIA.
We don't like to brag about that, Will. But you're exactly right. So the way I see it, the question isn't, why should you work for the NSA? The question is, why shouldn't you?
Why shouldn't I work for the NSA? That's a tough one. But I'll take a shot. Say I'm working at the NSA and somebody puts a code on my desk, something no one else can break. Maybe I take a shot at it, maybe I break it. And I'm real happy with myself because I did my job well. But maybe that code was the location of some rebel army in North Africa or the Middle East, and once they have that location, they bomb the village where the rebels are hiding. 1,500 people that I never met, never had no problem with, get killed. Now the politicians are saying, oh, send in the Marines to secure the area because they don't give a shit. It won't be their kid over there getting shot, just like it wasn't them when their number got called because they were all pulling a tour in the National Guard. It'll be some kid from Southie over there taking shrapnel in the ass. He comes back to find that the plant he used to work at got exported to the country he just got back from, and the guy who put the shrapnel in his ass got his old job because he'll work for 15 cents a day and no bathroom breaks. Meanwhile, he realizes the only reason he was over there in the first place was so that we could install a government that would sell us oil at a good price. And, of course, the oil companies use a little skirmish over there to scare up domestic oil prices. A cute little ancillary benefit for them, but it ain't helping my buddy at $2.50 a gallon. They're taking their sweet time bringing the oil back, of course. Maybe they even took the liberty of hiring an alcoholic skipper who likes to drink martinis and play slalom with the icebergs. It ain't too long till he hits one, spills the oil, and kills all the sea life in the North Atlantic. So now my buddy's out of work. He can't afford to drive, so he's walking to the job interviews, which sucks because the shrapnel in his ass is giving him chronic hemorrhoids. And meanwhile, he's starving because every time he tries to get a bite to eat, the only blue plate special they're serving is North Atlantic scrod with Quaker steak. So what did I think? I'm holding out for something better. I figure, while I'm at it, why not just shoot my buddy, take his job, give it to his sworn enemy, hike up gas prices, bomb a village, club a baby seal, hit the hash pipe, and join the National Guard. I could be elected president.
That was a great speech, and it's really bang on, and I think anybody who's out there who's ever had a close brush with the national security state would identify with that tremendously. And we're going to take a break for station identification. We're going to come back with hour number 3. We've got callers waiting on the line and more news to share with you. We'll be right back. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443, and we're going to start taking some phone calls. Jim in New York, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hey, aloha, Mike. How are you? Thanks for being a great host. You always take my calls. I appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you for the kind words. What's on your mind today?
I wanted to talk about the, evidently the elitists are making plans to leave the country and go to countries that have non-extradition treaties with the U.S. One being Hillary, who sent $1.3 billion to Qatar.
Now, I have not found hang on. I have not found confirmation that the money was sent, but I'm absolutely in agreement that all of these elites, understanding that a Trump win next week means jail sentences, I'm sure they have bailout plans.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. How true do you think that is?
That they have plans of escape in case things go to heck. I'm sure at that level of government they all do. Again, the only part of the story that I'm not sure about is this idea that Hillary sent $1.8 billion to Qatar. I cannot find a second source on that. And in any event, it's irrelevant.
$5 million home in United Arab Emirates.
And
the Bush is also buying 100,000 acres in Paraguay.
Yeah, that much I know about.
So it looks like they're making plans just in case Trump gets in.
Well, you know, if Barack Obama is going to leave the United States, and anybody from the White House is listening to this, Claire and I would be very happy to house sit their home here on Oahu, over there on the other place. It's really nice. I'm good at fixing things up, keeping the wiring working, and all the rest of that stuff. I can give you references.
I saw a funny cartoon today where they were nailing down the furniture in the White House in case Hillary gets back in.
Yeah, they need to do that. Nails, welding it, Velcro, whatever it's going to take. And you know something? After all the negative press she got from when she and Bill looted the White House furniture at the end of his term in office, she went ahead and did the same thing with the State Department again. And you want to know something? I saw photos of some of the furniture that she'd taken from the State Department. It was ugly stuff. It's like the only reason she took it was, because she could get away with it. And it's not stuff I would have in my home. And, of course, I'm not any kind of a champion of interior decor. My home is decorated early Salvation Army. But there are limits that even I will not go to, such as floral sofas.
Well, let's pray. Personally, I think it's going to be a landslide for Trump.
I think it will be a landslide for Trump. The only unknown issue is if the corporate media is going to stand up there and lie through their teeth and say, wow, what a surprise, late night surge of votes put Hillary over the top. And that'll trigger the revolution.
The only thing I'm worried about is the Electoral College.
Again, it's not over until it's over. And the question is, are they really willing to risk an outright revolution in this country to steal the country one more time? And, it's dicey in the extreme.
That's a distinct possibility.
All right.
Well, anyway, let's pray Trump wins and sets the country on the right course.
All right, well, let's do more than pray. Let's get on out there and vote for Trump, wear our red shirts on Election Day, and continue to take all of this information about the Clinton corruption, especially that smoking gun email, that they made the choice to scrub the private server of emails after the story went public. They had a subpoena. Okay, that needs to get on out there.
On my part, I have 2-foot by 6-foot signs on my pickup truck saying, vote for Trump, America first.
Absolutely. All right, Jim, thanks an awful lot. We're going to go to Paul in Ohio. Aloha, Paul. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. How are you?
Fine.
Good. You had a caller earlier stating about, asking if Trump was going to do term limits and restructuring that process. And I'm tired of hearing everybody asking if the government is going to do term limits or expecting the federal government to change term limits when you like to quote the Declaration of Independence when evils become insufferable, but also in that same paragraph, it says we have the right to alter or abolish government. The term limits were never written into the Constitution because those rights are reserved to the people of the states and the states thereof. It's up to the people of their individual state to amend their Constitution to say, hey, we're only going to send representatives for X amount of terms and no more. We don't have to look to the federal government to make our lives better. It's up to us as people to do that for ourselves.
Well, you're part of a growing segment of the population who understands that. One of the problems we have right now is there are too many people, including people who called into the show earlier today, who still think the legal system is working and they can find some standing and go into a court and have some judge say, yes, this is wrong, we're going to change it. And that is simply not going to happen. Okay, we are way past the point where this nation can be saved through legal operation. The system has hardened itself against any interference from outside. It goes all the way back to 1981 when the Supreme Court took away the right of individual citizens to file criminal charges, and that made it the government's purview to decide who does and does not get prosecuted for crimes, and obviously they do not prosecute themselves for all these crimes they've been committing. We're going to take a second to do a shout-out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. And go ahead. You were going to say one more thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there to hopefully create the change in the mindset of the people that we got to quit looking to the federal government to make our lives better. We have all the rights at our disposal if we just look within ourselves and within our state to make it happen at a local level to start moving on up the chain.
Well, because of the supremacy clause, look at what happened with Arizona when Arizona wanted to enforce the integrity of their borders, and the federal government came on in and said, no, you will let the illegals in. We have decreed it, mahi dictum est. And again, working from the bottom up to change our states and then to get the states to change the federal government, it's not going to happen. We're living in a dictatorship. There is no legal remedy for a dictatorship. You might as well get used to that idea right now. Okay. All right, we're going to let you go. Switch over to Guy in Los Angeles. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I love you. Hey, I just hope that when these guys start leaving America that we can extradite them back for treason.
Well, not necessarily for treason, but for corruption and various other things. Treason is a very narrow definition. I think if we widen our ambitions a little bit, cast a wider net, we'll get a lot more people. I think what's really most important is that their illegally obtained wealth be renationalized through the RICO statutes. And personally, I can't think of a way to punish a money junkie more than to take their money away from them and make them live like ordinary poor Americans. That's a fate worse than jail. It's a fate worse than death, and I think that's what they all deserve. Put them all in Section 8 housing,
Michael,
sending them on out to...
What about the Queen of England saying, enjoy your last Christmas? Now, what do you think she meant by that?
I have to be honest, I don't really know. It may be a pander to the Islamification of Europe under this whole refugee situation, or it may be a recognition that if the shopping malls can't make any money on the Christmas shopping season, why bother to have the holiday anyway? Personally, I think those who are raised with that tradition are going to go on celebrating Christmas, and they don't care what the Queen of England says. I certainly don't.
I think she's part of the cabal, though. I think she knows that it's all going down this year, and that she's part of it. She's funding the Rothschilds. She's part of the whole cabal.
Well, it could be her last Christmas, but I don't think it's going to be my last Christmas.
Well, it may be if the economy goes down. Now,
no, wait a minute. So you've fallen into this trap of thinking that you can only celebrate Christmas if you got gobs of money going down to the shopping mall and buying things. That's not what Christmas is about. I learned that when I was in Germany, and I got to experience Christmas at the Marienplatz. Okay? And I'm not religious, but I was raised with that Christmas tradition. You can have a Christmas just by having your family sitting around singing Christmas carols. That's not going to go away. No matter what the economy does, people are going to be looking for reasons to mark and celebrate certain occasions, whether it's Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, Groundhog Day, whatever. People are looking for that, and they're going to go ahead and celebrate that regardless of, their ability to go down to the shopping malls. It's a big lie that Christmas has to be celebrated through the shopping malls. That's utter nonsense.
Well, I agree. I totally agree. But I'd just like to see her a follow-up on that statement of hers, because it seems to me to be treason.
It doesn't qualify as treason. Stupidity, yes, but maybe that's the result of too much inbreeding in the royal family. Anyway, we're going to let you go here. Thank you very much, and switch over to James in North California. Aloha, James. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Michael. There's been a lot of talk and studies, and actually a book written that was popular 15 years ago by Malcolm Gladwell called The Tipping Point and the 100th Monkey Thing, and a lot of, studies on the subject. And they all pretty much concurred that it took about 10-20% to change the consciousness of a society.
Yes.
And a pessimist would have to say that we're well beyond that.
We are. We very much are. I mean, George Washington and the boys drove the British out of our country with less than 30% popular support. Of course, after it was all over and life got a lot better, everybody hopped on board and said, yeah, this was a good idea after all. But definitely we're past that 20% in our current situation. In fact, the people who still think the media can be trusted and the government is working for their benefit, they're now clearly a minority. The consciousness of the American public is shifting dramatically, or Hillary and her people wouldn't be having this much trouble trying to steal the White House.
And if you had to pick a day, it kind of felt to me like Friday, the 28th. That was the day that I think that's the day that it officially, irreversibly flipped.
I think we would be wise to let the historians make that judgment as to when the watershed moments happened. It certainly felt like it, but there have been times in the past that felt like, okay, we're past a turning point, and we wait and we wait and we wait. We're definitely on a path to the collapse of the United States government. When it's going to happen, we really don't have any way of knowing. Time will solve that mystery for us, okay? So, James, we're going to let you go. Thank you very much, and we're going to switch over to Mateus in Canada. Aloha, Mateus. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hey, Michael. Yeah, just for the other caller, treason is giving aid and comfort to the enemy during wartime.
Yeah, which is what Obama that's what Obama and Hillary Clinton were doing, sending weapons to ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Syria. They were technically committing treason. which is punishable by a rope party.
Yeah, look up in the Constitution what that can get you. It's pretty serious.
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to just quickly go back into history, like in Europe. The people were fighting against the crowns, and then the people started winning. We got the Magna Carta that resulted in the American Constitution, the Canadian Constitution. The control freaks, they had to kind of go underground and pretend to let us have our democracy, and reluctantly we got some of our power in our hands, but they never really went away. They just engaged in, like, stealing the elections and placing their people. Now it's kind of like a boil, it's like a boil that's coming to the surface. All this suppressed control is now coming to the surface, and now it's a crisis where the people can see, and who knows what's going to happen. Now, I wanted to mention that you have already laid out the reasons why to hold off on a physical confrontation, and I agree with them.
Yep.
And I want to add to that, one reason why holding off could get us into trouble, and that is because of the rise of the robots, the rise of the machines.
Mm-hmm.
So we've already got machines in manufacturing and in military. We've got drones and everything. So fast forward, 5 or 10 years, we'll probably have like robot, like army personnel. And we just got to be careful that they may be kind of afraid to directly confront us right now because we might win. But in 5 or 10 years, the robots will not refuse an illegal order, and they may be worried that the humans will refuse illegal orders, but the robots are out. So just something to consider that.
Well, with all due respect to James Cameron, it's an issue of economics. Flesh and blood soldiers are very, very cheap to come by. Robots are very, very expensive. And ultimately, when you look at the amount of resources that goes into a robot, it's one thing to invest in a robot that's going to be working for year after year after year, putting rear-view mirrors on driver's side doors of cars, and quite another to spend all that money on a robot that's life expectancy in the field can be measured in hours. They've already made that mistake with the F-35. It's hideously expensive, and it's not likely to survive very long. War, to be winnable, has to be cost-effective, and an army of robots is not cost-effective. There are always going to be ways to jam them. They're expensive to make. Looking at the quality of computer software coming out of the United States right now, I personally don't think they can get them to work. These things could turn around and start shooting their own officers.
Well, yeah, they probably would eventually turn and destroy the whole military that made them, just like the internet is destroying the control grid right now. Like, they're hacking themselves. They're hacking themselves to pieces right now with their own spy net. It's it's kind of funny in a way. But I want to mention that you're right about the robots being too expensive now. But my point is that there may be a time in the future when they get really efficient. You got the robots making the robots repairing the robots, and there are certain cost savings. Like, you don't have to worry about any sort of retirement packages. You don't have to worry about.
Well, I'm afraid. Hang on. If we get to that point where the robots are that autonomous, there's going to be no point in having war, because there's no point in conquering us and forcing us to do what they want when they've got the robots to take care of themselves. They might just take their robots and build their golden palaces on the tops of mountains and just leave the rest of us alone. They wouldn't have a need for us anymore. They wouldn't need to control us anymore.
Well, they got to get rid of us. They have to get rid of us at one point, or else we're going to resist this system, this anti-human agenda. So they might be planning to use the robots to get rid of us. Well, this is
all kind of blue sky, and we're talking way down the road, and we need to stay focused on the next 7 days. Okay, so Mateus, we're going to let you go here, and we're going to close the phone lines for a little bit because I do have a bunch of news. We're way behind the talking points. So we're looking at the stories that are coming out in the corporate media. Somebody has noticed that all of a sudden Washington elites are unfriending and unfollowing Hillary Clinton. And it's a very, very minor thing, but it's symbolic. If you remember an earlier time in the United States, the small community with the church and everything, there was a practice called shunning. If you did something the community did not approve of, they would literally refuse to talk to you. They wouldn't look at you. You still would go on out, work your farm, and feed your family and everything, but you were ostracized. And I think what we're seeing on the social media is sort of the 21st century version of shunning, where they're starting to disconnect. And that may portend some dramatic changes here. Now, up in Pennsylvania, the state police have raided another Democratic group over the issue of fraudulently created voter registration records. And they have apparently found voter registration records that seem to have been run off in series with just slight changes to the names and addresses in order to allow illegals to vote fraudulently in the upcoming election. It's all over the place here. Now, apparently, a watchdog has noticed Virginia has printed up 1 million provisional ballots. This is an unprecedented number, and the concern is they're going to use these provisional ballots to allow disqualified felons to vote for president in what is a crucial swing state. And again, they're not supposed to vote, but we have all of these state governors and all these politicians that are out there saying, yeah, let's let the felons vote. Let's let the illegals vote. It's going to be okay this time. No, it isn't. The law is very strict on all of these issues. And we have a government that, as a whole, has become criminal. Because their attitude is, the laws don't apply to us. They apply to you, not to us. Got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back. Hi, America. Welcome back to the show. And I'd like to take a moment to put forward the major problem the U.S. government is facing right now. Now, I've mentioned many times before that government actually operates much like a religion. It depends on the acolytes, the citizens, the followers, the subjects, believing as they are told to believe. Now, we know that the U.S. government maintained hegemonic domination over the world's economy following World War II because the world believed that the U.S. paper dollar was solid, reliable, and dependable and backed by gold, up until Nixon said, actually, no, we don't have enough gold to back all of this. The Nixon shock, as it were. And now we're seeing the result. The world is turning away from the dollar because they realize it's just ink and paper, and the only thing really backing up the U.S. dollar is the future slave labor of the American people, and the American people are getting sick and tired of being slaves to the bankers. Now, on a larger scale, there's a similar problem going on. How does the establishment steal the election for Hillary Clinton without destroying the public's belief that we have good government? That's what's really at risk here. If Hillary's people steal the election next week, there's going to be a crisis of faith in the U.S. political system. Now, the American people have been willing to put up with a lot of abuses on this belief that somehow or other we voted for all this. When they realize that is simply not true, that we've had fraudulent elections going back all the way to Kennedy-Nixon and even before that, this idea that we're not really in control of this government is going to be the beginning of the end. Because without the government having the trust and faith of the American people, it simply can't function. It's like I was telling that caller earlier in the show. If Hillary steals this election, she's going to go into the Oval Office in charge of a government that's completely paralyzed. She herself is going to be paralyzed, having to deal with all the impending investigations and all the looting and plundering of the nation to please her financial backers. And she will be powerless to do anything else other than that. And she'll be in charge of a government that is trying to rule a population that simply is not going to listen to them anymore. Not going to fill out the required paperwork. Not going to comply with the regulations. Not going to put the stickers on. Certainly not pay the bills on this out-of-control spending, which we now all realize was done without our permission and blessing. and certainly not to sacrifice life and limb of our children in wars of conquest, to which we also did not give our consent. It's a fundamental principle of our nation. Governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. And our government has tried to maintain that illusion that we consent to what they are doing, no matter how abominable it may be. And that is now at risk. That's at jeopardy. If Hillary steals this election next week, it will be the end of the United States. The central federal government will be paralyzed. The American people will not have any sense of loyalty or inclination to obey that central government. And it's all going to fall apart the way the Soviet Union did, for precisely the same reasons. Now, yet another email has surfaced showing that Democratic National Chairperson Donna Brazile was feeding Clinton camp debate questions in advance from her contacts at CNN. She was a contributor at CNN before taking over the chairmanship of the Democratic Party after Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to step down. Now, CNN has severed the relationship with her. Donna Brazile is still out there denying she did anything wrong. But at this point, it's sending yet another message to the voters. Hillary Clinton cheated the debates. She had the questions in advance. She cheated, she cheated, she cheated. Do we want somebody who cheats as President of the United States? I certainly do not. Got to take a break for more commercials. We'll be right back. Aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. We're talking about Donna Brazile, who has now been separated from CNN over this revelation that she was feeding Hillary Clinton's campaign town hall and debate questions ahead of time so that Hillary could memorize an answer to them, because Hillary cannot think on her feet. And it's just a reminder. CNN is helping Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's campaign is cheating. What a terrible example they are setting for young people in this country. Now, Donald Trump had a very pertinent question. Why didn't Hillary Clinton report Donna Brazile for feeding her the questions? It was a violation of the rules. That means that Hillary was part of the cheating. She can't claim that she was innocent, that she didn't know what was going on. She was part of it. Been doing a little digging on that claim that Hillary sent $1.8 billion to Qatar, and it tracks back to Sorchafall and whatdoesitmean.com, and anything coming out of What Does It Mean and Sorchafall is junk. Remember what I said before. Part of the strategy of the establishment is to throw as much nonsense into the discussions as possible to keep us all confused. And so anything coming out of Sorchafall is complete and total USDA choice bovine excrement. All righty. Now, as I mentioned before, we're starting to see the 21st century equivalent of shunning going on. Apparently, Michelle Obama scrubbed all references to Hillary Clinton from both her Twitter accounts following the announcement of the reopening of the FBI email probe and FBI investigations into the Clinton Foundation. Starting to do that whole separation thing going on here. Well, apparently Clinton is still trying to patch bridges there and has sent a signal saying that Michelle Obama would be welcome on President Hillary Clinton's cabinet. I have no idea what Michelle would be qualified to do as a member of the cabinet. When you look at the mess up she made of the student lunch program. All right, we're going to take a phone call. Andy in Texas, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Nice to talk to you again. Hey, here's my big concern here. We got, let's just assume Donald Trump wins. And then he's convenes courts to have these people tried and whatnot. Well, all these idiots that he's going to want to try, they put together these courts. They appointed the judges. They got the special prosecutors and stuff. So how is that going to work out, my friend?
Well, Donald Trump as president is capable, first of all, he's going to replace the Attorney General. And anything under the executive branch, Trump can fire them all and replace them with people who will do the job they're supposed to do. Bill Clinton did that when he became president. He fired every single U.S. attorney in the entire country and replaced them with cronies who would protect the Clintons and the Bushes' drug empire. And on that precedent, Trump could do exactly the same thing. All Donald Trump has to do is start firing people at the top who refuse to do their jobs, and everybody below will line up.
Well, hey, just on another note, I'm watching the national news on the corporate media, and they're actually saying that Donald Trump is 1% ahead of Hillary Clinton.
No, that's coming from ABC and Washington Post, and if they're admitting that he's ahead by 1 point, it's probably more likely close to 20. Because they've been oversampling Democrats. They're trying to sell this, but Hillary's in serious, serious trouble, and who knows what's going to happen. She could very well have Bill assassinated and try and ride the sympathy vote into the White House.
Well, I'm a little concerned about what's going to happen here because I think it's pretty obvious who's winning this election and winning it very big right now. I'm really concerned about what is going to happen. I'm hunkering down. I've got my food and stuff, my water all together. I really think something's going to happen at the end of this election. Either way, whoever gets in there. I mean, if they steal it from Donald Trump and give it to Hillary, people are going to be upset. If they give it to Donald Trump,
they ought to be.
You're going to have your instigators. Yeah, absolutely.
They ought to be angry. And I want to tell you, I have a zero-tolerance policy on election fraud. And I hold that if a government cannot prove beyond all doubt the honesty, accuracy, and fairness of the elections by which they claim authority over us, then we the people are neither legally nor morally obligated to obey that government's dictates, to pay its bills, or to sacrifice the lives of our children in that government's wars of conquest. The burden of proof is on them, especially with all the evidence of election fraud that has already surfaced. They're going to sit up there and say, you prove we cheated. We don't have to prove that you cheated. We've seen the cheating. You are the one who is coming up and saying you are now the legal, legitimate government of this country. We, the people, demand that you document that you have attained that power in accordance with the law. And if you can't, then we're just not going to listen to you anymore.
Well, and you know what? I mean, I've already done that. I don't pay any taxes. I mean, I pay sales tax or whatever, but I deal in cash. If you can't pay me in cash, I ain't working for you. I just don't play this game anymore. I'm done with these people. I did my time in the military. I'm very embarrassed for the fact that I did that. I got children in this world. I'm so disgusted with myself, but I'm more disgusted with my government. Not my country. Love my country. This is a beautiful land, but I am disgusted with my government. Anyway, thank you, Mike. Appreciate your time.
All right, you got it. I remember back when I think it was George W. Bush was out there, saying that it's impossible to say you love your country but don't love your government. The country is 300 million Americans. It's 3,000 miles of beautiful scenery. The government is this little tiny malarial swamp over there tucked in near Maryland, Virginia. The government is not the country. The government is supposed to be the janitor for the country, if you think about it.
Truth be told, yeah, that's absolutely the way it should be. And this whole D.C. thing, I don't know where that came from because it doesn't even fit into the United States anyway, so we're being ruled from a foreign land as far as I'm concerned, but that's a whole other story.
Well, you need to go back and remember the reason why we're called America versus Columbia, having to do with how they tried to cheat Columbus out of his discovery and hand it to a political crony, Amerigo Vespucci, whose only claim to fame prior to being given the ships and money to come across and colonize America, he was a favored writer of pornographic literature for the court. And so, just like politics today, we're going to take the credit away from those who've really done it, and we're going to give it to somebody that we really like and make them famous. And had it not been for Columbus's son taking up the challenge, we would all be giving the credit to the discovery of the New World to the wrong person, at least in terms of Europe. We know now that Columbus and Amerigo Vespucci were not the first in the New World. The Vikings got there before that. The Egyptians got there before that. They were buying cocaine for the pharaohs. The Chinese got here. And then, of course, there are those people who became the Native Americans who walked over dodging mammoths and saber-toothed tigers. So this idea that somebody discovered the New World was nonsense. There were already people there saying, hi, what are you doing here? You guys look funny. And I'm sure in the Native Americans, we're looking at Columbus and his people coming on board and saying, boy, these people are weird. They don't speak our language. They don't believe our religion. But, we'll let them on in. What harm could they possibly cause?
Well, you just blew up all the history books we've been reading and being taught in school right there.
Well, we're all adults.
Blew them up.
We're all adults. We're all going to have to realize that we have been lied to a lot in our life, okay? And I'll give you one example that I found personally devastating. Coyotes can run at 45 miles per hour. Roadrunners can only do 20. That was the last cherished illusion of my childhood to fall.
Way to go, Mike. That's a good way to end the call.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. Okay, I think, let's see. Michael in Ireland. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Last week you succinctly distinguished capitalism, socialism, and fascism, and you compared them. Could you do that again, please?
Well, just real quick, capitalism is a system in which you make money, you get to keep it. If you lose money, you are responsible for that loss, because freedom means not only the freedom to succeed, but the freedom to fail and the responsibility to accept either outcome. Socialism is a system in which if you make money, it's taxed away from you to benefit society. If you lose money, society is taxed to cover the losses so you can pick up and try again. Fascism is a system in which if you make money, you're allowed to keep it, but if you lose money, society is taxed to cover the losses. And looking at TARP and bailouts and all of this other stuff where the American people are being looted and plundered and impoverished to prop up Wall Street, it's very obvious that we have become a fascist economic dictatorship. We stopped being a truly capitalist nation decades ago.
Decades ago. How many decades exactly?
Between 2 and 3. We have to go back and, it's not like somebody threw a switch where there's this big dial that says capitalism and fascism and somebody went ka-chunk. It was a transition. And interestingly enough, Vladimir Lenin predicted that when Western capitalism failed, it would inevitably deteriorate into fascism to preserve the rank, wealth, and privilege of the elites. And that's exactly what has happened.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to switch over to Gina in Texas. Aloha, Gina. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Aloha.
Aloha.
I need some clarification. I've listened to you for a long time, and I don't know if I'm mistaken or not, but I was under the impression that Kumi was hooked into the HSBC bank scandal and was not such a good guy, and all of a sudden, the last few days, that's all I've been hearing is what a fine, upstanding Republican he is.
Well,
am I wrong in that?
Well, you're hearing it from people who are supportive of his reopening the investigation into the email server. But if you look at the circumstances of what happened, you'll realize Comey is still being Comey. His hand was forced, because this laptop with the 650,000 emails was actually uncovered by police investigators up in New York who were investigating Anthony Weiner's Weiner and his online seduction of an underage girl. And when they were examining... Hang on a second. When they were examining the laptop, they found these emails and they said, all right, we're going to report it to the FBI and we're going to go public. And so at that point, Comey's hand was forced. Loretta Lynch said, don't mention it, it's too close to the election. But if Comey had stayed silent and the New York authorities had said, yes, there are all these State Department emails, and the FBI was informed and did nothing, then Comey is looking at obstruction charges. He's going to be the guy thrown under the bus for this whole scandal. So he felt he had to go public and say, yes, there's a new investigation, because of the sheer scale of what happened. And that, of course, has led to the possibility of Huma Abedin facing a perjury charge and 5 years in prison. Hillary looking at obstruction of justice. It's definitely coming apart. But Comey did not do the good thing out of a sense of duty his hand got forced by the New York police authorities and by his own FBI underlings who were on the verge of resignation and mutiny over what he did last summer. And so I wouldn't want to be James Comey right now, but then he did want the job, and now he's having to deal with it. But no, he's still not a good. He's still not a good guy. He's still not a good guy.
Yeah.
His hand got forced.
Okay, I feel like they've been trying to whitewash him over this last deal, and I feel like he's been connected to Loretta Lynch and Obama at the hip, and then all of a sudden, you know, he's got a halo, and I just wanted to make sure I had my facts straight. And I understand his hand was forced.
Yeah, they're trying to staple a halo on him, but it's not going to stick. So
he was involved though, because I keep telling everybody, you know, that Comey and Loretta and Bill Clinton have all been together since Loretta Lynch was Attorney General for New York.
Okay, they don't call it Attorney General of New York. That's the state office. She was U.S. Attorney for New York, the federal office. And it was Loretta Lynch who gave HSBC the wrist slap settlement that allowed them to skate on the drug money laundering charges.
And what was Comey's part in that?
He was on the board of directors of HSBC when that all went down.
Okay, so was he personally responsible for the policies of the laundering the drug money?
Well, because Loretta Lynch basically pulled the rug out from any further investigation, we don't actually know, but it's hard to imagine somebody who's on the board of directors of a bank not looking at the bank's books and realizing that a major part of the bank's profits are tangled up with illicit money.
Okay. All right, well, that clarifies that for me, Mike. Thank you so much. I listen to you every day. You're doing warrior's work, and you have a lot of people out here. I tell everybody I know, listen to Mike Rivero. He's great.
All right, well, thank you for the very kind words here, and we're going to let you go and switch over to Tom in Florida. Okay. Aloha, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hello, Michael. Well, we got a week to go for the election. And I want to ask you, Michael, if Donald Trump gets 20% of the Afro-American vote, will he win the election next week? And I believe that if Donald Trump were to run an ad with this Danny Williams Clinton and then run an ad about that, and let's go put this guy on Maury Povich show with Bill. Let's see what happens then. If Trump can run an ad right before this election with Danny Williams Clinton and telling him to go on the Maury Povich show, I think I think Trump will get 25% of the Afro-American vote and win this election in a landslide. But he has to do something like that. And also, Mike, I want to talk about...
Well, hang on. Let me respond to what you said, okay? If handled correctly, it could work, basically in the context of how Bill Clinton was not only the out-of-wedlock father of Danny, he was also a deadbeat dad, that he didn't contribute any support to this kid. And that, I think, if that's raised as an issue, that's going to find a lot more resonance among the black voters than a simple mistake of parentage, of not wearing the appropriate protection and everything. But for Hillary to be out there saying, we're going to take care of the black people, and then for Bill Clinton to basically abandon his own black son, that, I think, that could have an effect.
Right, Michael. And, Mike, one more thing. Have you heard about Putin and the Russian military has a bomb called the Satan bomb? And he said if Hillary basically becomes president, he'll drop one right in the Midwest, and he'll detonate it up a couple miles.
Okay, I read that article. Hang on. Satan refers to an ICBM booster. The largest bomb they have is called the Tsar bomb, but I don't know that it's in active service, okay? We're going to have to let you go, and we'll be back with a final couple of phone calls in the end of our program today. Aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. Before we try and get through these last few phone calls before the top of the show, a couple of news stories coming on in. The FBI, responding to allegations by the Hillary Clinton campaign, has been looking into links and ties between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. One of Hillary's pet prostitutes, correspondents in the corporate media went as far as to say that Donald Trump has his own private email server in his home that's directly linked to the Kremvax. And, of course, all of it was nonsense. And the FBI has now said they are unable to see any links whatsoever between Donald Trump and his campaign and anybody in Russia. It's just another piece of made-up nonsense by a Hillary Clinton campaign that is in full-on panic mode. And we are getting late word as the FBI starts to dig in to the new 650,000 emails on the laptop. They're discovering it isn't old territory. They're finding new stuff. And they're already saying there's information there about Benghazi. And they think the missing 33,000 private emails may be there as well. This appears to have been a complete backup of the archive. All right, real quick phone calls. Laura in Kansas, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Michael. I just went on YouTube and found a video that was just released where Steve Pashenik has, I guess, I'm not sure who he is, but I guess he's in with the intelligence community, that there has been a soft coup. That what the WikiLeaks were, and that Assange was actually working with intelligence here in the U.S. to do a soft coup and get Obama basically to let him know, we know what you guys are doing. Hillary's not going to be president, and we're going to do what we need to do.
Well, I'll tell you what. Call me back with that same observation next Wednesday, okay? And we're going to switch over real quick to Will in Cincinnati. Aloha, Will. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. This was actually, I had a question, but also just a comment for the audience. I think everybody should now see that the momentum is shifting. So, like, you know, when the enemy is making a mistake, don't interrupt them. But we've still got to hold their feet to the fire. I was wondering if you knew any updates on the petition to remove the George Soros voting machines from the election in the emergency session, because I know the petition's reached 126,000 signatures, and I couldn't find anything on.
Well, I'm sure the official response is going to be it's too late to bring about that degree of change in the election system this close to the actual election. The problem is those particular machines are not actually certified for U.S. national elections. They never should have been put in the first place.
Well, quick side note also, the timing of the trial we have going on here with the cop is it's the jury set. They started, and it should be over within 7 to 10 days. So look at the timing there. I think it's to the point where there's enough. We've almost reached critical mass. If they steal it, we're going to know.
Yeah, I think so. Real quick, I'm going to switch to Ed in Michigan. Aloha, Ed. What's on your mind? Ed, are you there?
Hey, Mike.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm here.
Real quick, what's on your mind? We're out of time.
First off, you have the that was the kill switch. That was an UMA kill switch. That's what all those emails.
No, I think it was your life insurance policy. Anyway, listen, we'll pick this up tomorrow. There's the music. I got to head on out of here, get something useful done with the rest of the day. I got a lot of work on my desk this afternoon. We'll be back tomorrow here at the Republic Broadcasting Network. Until then, you are all part of Rivero's Rangers. You're part of the independent media. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to reach out to as many of your fellow Americans as you can in the next 7 days and tell them that even if they don't have a reason to vote for Donald Trump, there are 1,000 reasons to vote against Hillary Clinton. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.